Thanks for tuning in to As the Tire Turns podcast. Before we dive into this week's episode, I'd like to thank our sponsor, AME International. Tire professionals insist on AME. I'd also like to recognize the AACF. For over 65 years, the Automotive Aftermarket Charitable Foundation has stood by those in the automotive aftermarket industry and their families during life's toughest challenges. Since 1959, with the incredible support of industry partners, AACF has provided vital assistance to individuals and families facing financial hardship due to unforeseen circumstances, such as floods, earthquakes, storms, fires, catastrophic medical conditions, life-changing accidents, devastating fatalities, and more. AACF offers a straightforward application process and a quick turnaround time for those needing support during critical moments. Visit www.aftermarketcharity.org to access the application and learn more about how AACF can assist during times of need. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of our automotive aftermarket family. Support AACF today. And now, As the Tire Turns. All right, we are back with another episode of As the Tire Turns podcast. Today I'm joined by Dave Caruso, Vice President of Haltech. Is that? I feel like I should know the title.
Yeah, Executive Vice President.
Executive Vice President. So this is actually probably, I'm doing this series, right, to kind of chronicle my years to president and some of the players or people that have influenced, the industry, myself.
Sure.
And this is probably the only one I'm a little bit nervous about, which may surprise you, but it's in part because, one, I know so much about you. Right. So,
and two, I know so much about you.
Well, that could be that could be true. So, but friend, mentor, right? Business colleague, and so on. So,
what year was it?
It would have been 1993 for us, right? So,
yeah.
But you go back, and that's what I was going to say. So. We don't have to get into and I think you have listened to the episodes that have been released at this point. So, we talk about kind of how'd you get into the tire industry, but I was going to say maybe even how's a kid from Sleepy Hollow golf course or Alliance, Ohio, right? You want to talk a little bit about your path?
Yeah, right. Well, I grew up 15 minutes from here, right? Went to University of Akron.
Zips.
Right? Rubber capital of the world, right?
Yeah.
Did very well at Akron when I was there. Worked in a little lounge bar and worked in sports information department. And when I was working in the sports information department, we had Bob Huggins as the basketball coach and Jerry Faust as a football coach, right? So I got to work directly with two guys who really were icons, right? And long-term in the sports industry.
Yeah, maybe not at that time, right? But that was part of their journey.
Faust was actually already gone from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And then he came to Akron. So he was on the tail end of his career, right?
And
Bob Huggins was on the beginning of his. But then I worked directly for the, you wonder why I'm going through all this. I worked directly for the sports information director at the time, Ken McDonald, great guy. But graduated from Akron U, and you go out in 1986 and look for a job and
put on the suit.
Put on the suit, right? There's no running around in golf shirts in 1986.
No casual Friday,
right? Interviewed at Bridgestone and Goodyear and Timken and just about every big company there was, because I did well at Akron and they set up interviews. But believe it or not, back at that time I was a little backward and shy, and I don't think I interviewed well.
Gotcha.
Right? So I didn't get a job, and I graduated in December, and I started at Haltech in September. Well, I came to Haltech, I went for this interview, and I pulled in. It's just this small place. I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll go in and...
Quite literally surrounded by corn.
Quite literally surrounded by corn, and I went in, and Ed Russell was, at the time, had newly purchased Haltech the 6 months before that.
Yeah.
And I went in and I sat down and we talked for a second like we've talked here. And he said, well, I'm going to tell you right now. He said, you got the job. And I said, we've hardly talked. I said, okay. He said, you don't know it. He said, but I know all the guys from the sports information department at Akron U, and they told me they were going to pay your salary if you didn't work out. So that's how I got started in the tire industry.
They had that much confidence in you?
Correct.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought every time I saw one of those guys after that, I thanked them. And of course, I started at Hall Tech, right? And there were 11 people. Right? We were very small. I liked the job, right? But it was very small. I remember going home, and I still lived at home because I hadn't been working. And my dad says, well, how do you like it? After the first couple of weeks. And I said, Dad, this is great. Seems to be a nice little company. I said, I'll work here a couple of years and get some experience and probably move on, because I got to work with this, I got to work with old people all day there.
Yeah.
And of course, Maryland was 36. That was the old people I was referring to. So
that's funny.
God only knows what the kids say now about me.
Yeah. So, I remember when you and I were the younger people in the room, right? But that's long gone. So
way long gone.
So you mentioned Ed Russell, and I know he's obviously a big mentor. And
absolutely.
He, and I got to know him early on. He was partners with Mike Jordan and Rick Pearson in kind of a side venture, right? And so Tire Equipment Corp, which is at the time, my first trade show was the ARA show, 1993. I was, if you can believe this body was changing a tire. I was changing the tires with the prototype of the Golden tool, right?
Believe it or not, I remember that show, because I remember that's the first time I met you. We had dinner with Ed and Mike, but we got you with a Michelin Man, which I think I still have that picture.
Right.
That Polaroid.
I have so many things I could say to that, but anyway, mostly about self-deprecating, about resembling the Bendham now at this point. But anyway, nonetheless, I guess you don't realize it at the time, right? But even just Ed passed recently last year, and reading his obituary. The timeline of when him buying Hall Tech, right, and having started AME in my early 30s, right, and so and then I realized, shoot, he was older than I am, right? I'm 30 years into this career now, right? I know he worked for Schrader, and he was in his 50s. Yeah, correct. And I thought, like, my heart stopped for a second, because I'm just thinking, like, I don't know if I could do this again, right? It worked out pretty good, but half of what you get into, I think you start a business is ignorance, right? You don't know what you're really getting into, and so at 55, right? For him to have really, when people were kind of looking at towards the tail end of their career, him launching this. But if you can, right? Because what a guy to work under and kind of be his protege, if you will. And could you just talk a little bit about that relationship? And,
well, of course, Ed was like a second father to me, right? I literally spent 36 years of my life, right, working directly with Ed. And the one thing I'll say about Ed, right, he was a smart guy, right, but he was a great business person. Right? Honest, right? Integrity. Polite. Right? Knew what to say and what not to say. And he, laid the groundwork. Here at Hall Tech. You look at our top 30 customers right now, and I bet you 25 of them, Ed Russell set up as accounts. Right? John Deere, Caterpillar,
all the
Goodyear,
OE business,
Myers, right, the Ascot, all of it, everybody, right? Not meaning to leave anybody out, but Ed set it all up, right? And I've been fortunate enough, Ken and I, to step in behind him and just grow all that business, and we've landed some other great accounts on the way, right? Partly because of our reputation that we've had for years, right, as a high quality company, but a lot because of Ed, right, and what Ed taught me. And I still say it to this day, right, the industry's changes, right? In 1986, you didn't do business on a television or a cell phone.
Right.
We didn't have a fax machine when I started at Hall Tech.
Probably TELEX?
TELEX. We had a TELEX. So it literally would take 4 days to give somebody a price, right? hey, can I get a price up back and forth every night?
Yeah.
Where now you could do that in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
Right. So what a difference in technology, right? But I learned all of the things about how to do business from Ed. Really. Yeah. Certainly other people in the industry, right, that I'll name one who was great to me was Mike Pilata. He's no longer in the industry, but there was another guy who was great friends with Ed Russell, and to me they were both just very powerful.
Salt of the earth.
Salt of the earth, very powerful men in our industry.
Yeah. What would you say that you've noticed in, right, I'm doing the math, it's almost 40 years,
that's right.
changes within the industry? I mean, you talk a little bit about technology, right?
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a good thing that you can be conducting business on the golf course now, right?
Yeah.
You know, it may sound like it, but it probably takes away from the experience of golf.
Well, I will tell you, when all the new technology came out, I was doing business on the golf course all the time.
Right.
Well, I've now got completely away from doing business on the golf course, and I turn my phone and
good for you
and things off because it has become a right in your home life,
24/7.
Your kids, right? See, when you're at a football game, right? When you do business worldwide, as you know, you do.
Yep.
You get calls anytime during the day. Yeah, that's definitely the biggest change in 40 years, right? That people are still the people. I'm working in a lot of cases with third generations and I know their kids, right? Sometimes four generations, and people are still the same, but the technology is changed. Right?
It's changed.
I get a kick out of people say, oh, you can't get the young kids to do anything. You can't get to, but the fact is they do things differently.
Sure.
They're doing things. They're just not doing things the way I did them when I was that age, right? I mean, you ask 16, 17, 18-year-olds, they've never asked a girl out to her face. Yeah. Right?
Well, that's a whole different discussion. We're going to get really derailed here, but I tell my kids, right, by the time that you're at that stage, they've messaged each other. They may not know what their voice sounds like, right? Because in some cases they may know somebody online that they've never even met face to face, and the anxiety, right? That I say that you would have just to even ask a girl for her phone number, right? And then to try and make that call, typically from
her dad answering the phone
from like a kitchen phone, right?
Exactly.
Or something where you had an older brother who would torment you or whatever, and it'd be ringing, and you'd want to almost like hang up, like, So it's that's one area.
But if look, we've got, when I started all those years ago, we had 10 people, right?
Yeah.
We have 250 people now, a great group of companies with AME and BMS and Haltech, and we're able to do 10 times as much business, right? If we were doing business the way we did it when I started, we'd need 1,500 people here at Haltech to do that amount of business.
Yeah, it's funny. I started the company in 07, and I remember reading a book one time, and I think it was telling this old story in it, and somebody had whatever. I think it was the Aladdin factor, but the little anecdote in the front was somebody had sold this from like biblical terms, or the coat of many colors or something, and they got 100 pieces of gold or silver or something, and somebody said, you fool, right, it's worth much more than that, and the reply was like, is there a number greater than 100, right? Because they didn't know. And so I can say we started AME, right, we kind of had an idea from our previous life, and of course I'd spent 14 years at ESCO, what that number was, right? And then suddenly we got past that, and then again, and so I mean, you pointed, you guys had tremendous organic growth,
correct?
But then I don't know the years, maybe 12 or 13, you made an acquisition of the parts company,
Great Lakes Parts, right?
Great Lakes Parts, right? So you went then you went from not just being a friend and a mentor, right, to sell. We sold AME to the Haltech guys in 2015. Right, and I think soon after the Irish company, right?
EMS,
so you have built somewhat of a little stable, if you will, but it's could you have envisioned that?
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Is there anything you would, if you could go back to 1986, Dave Caruso in the brown suit, interviewing for, is there anything you'd have done differently?
That's a good question, Keith, and I just don't know the answer. Right?
Yeah.
I remember, I told this story at Ed's funeral. I remember reading one time, you make 2 or 3 decisions in your life that change your life.
Sure.
And you may or may not know what those decisions were.
Right.
Right? I'm fortunate enough to know
Right.
that I married my wife in 1989.
Yeah.
Right? I started working at Holtec. I met Ed Russell, I should say,
Yeah.
in 1986.
Yeah.
Right? And I was able to go into the purchase a company of
Yeah.
a Holtec and
Correct.
10, 12 years back. And those are, right, those for me are all things that I look back on it.
Right.
I would have never dreamed I'd have been at Holtec for 38 years and I've seen every corner of the world,
Yeah.
right? Chile, Peru, Colombia, China, Japan, Singapore,
Yeah.
you name it, right?
Yeah.
Anywhere there's mining.
A little kid from Sleepy Hollow
Correct.
Golf Course. Yeah.
Would have never dreamt it.
Yeah.
No, never.
I think the same thing, and I was going to ask you, of all those, right? Is there something that, and I know you make the most, right? I've traveled enough with you, fortunately, right?
Yeah.
And selling to a lot of the same people, right? That you work hard and you kind of play hard, but is there somewhere that stands out where you're like, hey, I'm thankful I was able to get to go there?
It really was, and I'm not sure that you've ever been there. It was actually a visit to Vienna, Austria, with Christian Ploniger, who at the time was the owner of Ventrex, right?
Valve manufacturer, right?
Valve manufacturer. He was a very well-off guy. Went to the opera with him, right? Traveled around Vienna, right? A little bit around Austria.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But his loft, where he and his wife and his 2 little kids at the time, now he has 3 grown kids, was right next to the Vienna Boys Choir, where they practiced. And we sat there one night for a good 2 hours and just listened to this. And it was like, I cannot believe that I'm sitting here listening to this.
Kind of those pinch me moments.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
Right. It was cool. But Keith, we've been to so many places and so many good memories. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the one trip we made together. And we didn't go far. We were only in Las Vegas. And we rented a big space at the Hilton. Right? You had one of the rooms, I had the other room, and we had a kitchen TV in the middle. We had people come up for meetings and this and that. But I think we were there for 4 days and we didn't see each other.
We didn't.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. We did not see one. And I came back, I think, Sunday night, and there was a cup with a rose in it and a letter. And I picked it up, and it was basically, Dear Dave, we can't go on like this. I haven't seen you for 14. And I never laughed so hard in my life when I read that. And I remember when we shared it with each other, we said, we can't show this to our wives because it's true. We're gone all the time. We don't see each other.
It's true.
Oh, was it funny?
Yeah, I remember texting you, and you were on the course when I landed, and we had schedules that were just off, and you're right. We didn't see each other.
Yeah.
All right. So I scribbled down here, Tadmor.
Oh yeah.
I was going to say, if you can, I know, right? So the industry knows you, right? And sometimes it's weird to see. Even I know you've had Kimmy, your daughter's worked in the business, right, for a short period of time.
Nick did also, and Anthony. All of them did.
Yeah. So sometimes they'll notice, right? Work dad is different from home dad, right? So they get to see that side of you.
Yeah.
Well, industry wise, right? People know Dave Caruso, right? They think the shows and the business and so on, but this is outside, right? You are active in the Shriners organization, right?
Yeah.
So that's your chapter, I believe.
Yeah. It's an Akron Tadmor.
Yeah.
Tadmor Temple. It's a great organization, right? They run the hospitals for kids. And you'd be surprised how many people don't know what the Shriners hospitals do for kids, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a child with a burn or birth defect, or they get hurt in any way, right? If you have a Shriner call the Shriners Hospital. They can go there, and it's free.
Correct.
I mean, you don't pay anything.
Yeah.
Right? It's all the money is raised by the Shriners.
Yeah.
Right? The guys have started off with 2 guys in New York, 2 doctors, in fact, in New York years and years ago. And I think right now they have an $8 billion endowment.
Yeah.
Right? 600,000 or 60,000 oil wells, 600,000 acres of potatoes.
Yeah.
Right? Just all kind of things that they've
accumulated.
We make money, and you know that, and it's just a great thing for kids. I mean, it's you know, we think about our day-to-day lives and we get stressed out about this, that, or the other thing.
Yeah.
Well, then you go to one of those hospitals and you see what some of these kids have to go through. Your problems are nothing.
Correct.
Right? I mean, it makes the burn units are incredible. Right? That you 20 years ago, if you went to a burn unit and a kid was burnt 90% over their body, they were going to die.
Yeah.
No question about it. Now, because of all the work that they've done at Shriners Hospitals, you could be burned over that much of your body, and you know, after several surgeries, a lot of it you can't even tell.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and they have these dolls, models, human size, that they take into school, and if a child is burnt, they take it to the school before the child goes back, and they show the class, this is what Johnny's going to look like when he comes back.
Yeah.
Right?
So they're prepared.
So they're prepared, right?
Yeah.
To bring him back and to, you know, not
understand and not have to ask 100 questions.
Correct.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
help welcome them back.
Long and short, it's a great organization that I wish I had. Maybe when I retire, right? The one thing we do with the Alliance Shrine Club is we're drivers. So we pick up the kids and we drive them to the hospitals.
I thought you were talking about the
Oh no, the little Gojo carts.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole different thing, right? We have 16 little go-karts, and we go to all the parades and we do figure eights and right, and the flag unit follows us down the parade unit with a flag the size of this room, right?
Yeah.
And they carry it the whole length of the parade, and people throw money out into it, and you'd be surprised. You know, almost every parade we go to, we get $3,000-$4,000.
That's great.
Which is great, yeah. And everything we do goes to the kids, right? It's 100%.
I'll stick with a charitable organization, although it may not sound like it. I don't think you participated, at least not in the event, but I'm not sure if I'm getting the name right. Can you tell me about, is it the Beer Mile?
The Beer Mile, right, on Bandy Road.
That's it.
Yeah. We have an event called Rocking Out Cancer in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it literally...
Which is on the outskirts of Alliance,
correct.
Ohio,
It's out
right? Yeah.
in a cornfield, right? And this one guy, he had it in Columbus the first couple of years, but decided to bring it up to his home up here. And it's, they raise money for cancer, right? And I think the last 2 years, they've raised over $100,000. And they have the families there at the Rocking Out because it's a rock concert.
Yeah.
They have 4 bands, very good bands that they bring in from all over the state of Ohio to play. But as a prelude to that, you know, maybe a month before, at the 4th of July, we have the Bandy Road Beer Mile, where I think this year we had 120 people, right?
And do they kind of raise money or get pledges? And
$35 a person to get in the race, right? And at the start of the race, Nick, my son, sang the national anthem this year.
That's right.
It was very nice. I'll play it for you later.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the race, the gun goes off, you drink a beer, you run a quarter mile, you stop, you drink a beer, you run another quarter mile, you stop, you drink a beer, you run the last quarter mile, you drink a beer, and then you finish up. So one young man drank 4 beers and ran a mile in 8 minutes and 30 seconds. Which was remarkable.
Kept him down?
It kept him down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah. There's no rule about keeping him down.
No.
But he did keep him down.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah. But we raised money for that, and then it goes right directly to that Rocking Out Cancer. And that's, you know, my neighbors, Sandy and Tom, just do a wonderful job with that.
Something we don't know about Dave Caruso.
I don't know, man. I've been around so long, I think everybody knows everything, right?
I only had one thing maybe that I could drop in there, and that was I was going to bring up Garfield, right? Because it's a
cat.
Yeah, you're. I mean, you've had dogs as well,
sure.
right? But you are you're a cat guy.
Yeah.
And I've become I guess I've become a cat guy right now, and as well. But you've got Garfield.
Yeah, we do.
Is your cat, which is
Garfield's been hit by a car. He's been shot twice. He got
not intentionally.
I don't know. I have to assume so.
Oh, really?
He
BBs or
BBs.
Okay.
He got attacked by an owl.
Yeah.
Which most cats wouldn't survive that.
Yeah.
Right?
Garfield's got some heft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And Garfield would be my aunt and uncle. They've got a horse farm, and they would say the one outdoor cat was a mouser, right?
Yeah,
I guess
he's a
right.
mouser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loves to bring back.
Brought home a woodpecker one day. Yeah. He's not afraid of much of anything. So.
Okay, but that's if you're sitting at home at night, you're probably sitting there.
Well, yeah, it's funny. At 9:30, 10 o'clock every night. My wife and I will open the door, and we got to call him and wait for him to come in before we'll go to sleep, because we want to make sure the coyotes don't get him.
Yeah. So, all right, you've got that. And then
avid golfer, but I think everybody
probably knows
that. Yeah.
That may have helped with that certainly helped you get to know Ed, right? Because I'm
for sure.
Countless rounds with Ed,
yes.
I'm sure.
Yeah. He would take me places. Back in the day, I was a pretty good golfer. 30 years of kids and 15 years of grandkids, right? Those golfing days have been limited. Now I still love to do it, but I'm not as good as I was. But Ed would take me places because he wanted to win, right? Ed was very competitive, right? So he would take me, and the other guys wouldn't know me from Adam, and we pretty much win most of the time.
Yeah. So you mentioned Ed being a second dad. I got to golf with Ed a number of times, but also got to golf with your dad Herb, right? And so anything you pick up from him that you attribute, to your business. And
my dad was a great family man, right? Went to the College of Hard Knocks, right? Went to the Army, learned drafting in the Army, came back to Alliance and became a draftsman at Alliance Machine, and worked there for over 30 years. Taught school at Massillon for a few years, but he was a great family man. Taught me how to do things right, and can't say good things. He passed away last year, and in fact, he and Ed passed away a month apart from each other, which were
really tough. Because,
really
to your point, I mean,
I lost two dads in
a short period of time.
And then you have to wake up, and it's your time. Yeah. Right. To be that guy.
Yeah. Exactly. So okay. Just some quick, or maybe not so quick, but I figured some of these things. I think I know the answer to some of these, but honestly, I'm
did I hear Kevin Rawling had 2 episodes?
Yeah.
I may have to go to 3.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm kidding.
I don't know. We're actually doing okay on time, and we're wrapping up. So we're. But I was going to give you just a couple of Browns or Indians or Guardians, I guess, at this point. But
both.
Can't pick one.
I can remember when I was 15 years old over at Sleepy Hollow, where you've talked about many times.
Yeah.
The golf course in my backyard where I grew up.
Yeah.
Then I remember 2 guys like us sitting there having this big argument, both drinking beer, both about our size right now, right?
Not that big.
One saying, Phil Siggy, he can't get anything right. And the other one, Art Modell, that goddamn guy, right? And they had this big bet who was going to win first.
Yeah.
I was 15 at the time, right? Wow. I'm 60. And guess what? Neither one of them have won yet.
Yeah.
In my lifetime.
Yeah.
Right? The Cavs did, but and God love the Cavs, but for most of us in Cleveland, that doesn't count as a championship.
Yeah.
It's got to be the Indians, Guardians / Browns.
I was with you. And yes, I don't remember the exact circumstances, but we were hosting a dinner out in Vegas, SEMA show.
Game 7.
Typically around there.
Yeah.
And I know, while prior to that, you were probably a Bill Murray fan.
Right.
I think you grew tired of I don't know if his middle initial is F or not, but Bill F. Murray from with the Cubs and the Indians, right?
Yeah.
and I just remember, right, because we were hosting a joint customer dinner, and the tone just, I don't know if there was a rain delay.
There was, that's right.
Or and then like kind of the pitching was hot and then just came back. And
yeah, we actually tied the game. Yeah. Right there, and then it started to rain, and they delayed the game.
Yeah.
And we were down, I think, I don't know, 7-4 or 7-5. We came back and tied it, and then when we came back, we ended up losing by 1 run. And another heartbreak for me.
Yeah, big heartbreak. So anyway, okay. Bud Light, Busch Light.
Either. the chosen beer of Bandy Road, obviously, is Busch Light.
Busch Light, okay, all right. So Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi,
Diet
we know
Coke
that
all
one.
day long, yeah.
Even in a Marriott, right? Aren't they all Pepsi or something in Marriott hotels?
I'll find Coke one way or the other.
Yeah, okay, all right. I was going to ask a tractor question, but then I thought one of them might be a customer, or maybe both are customers. So I wasn't going to put you on the spot with respect to that, right? But I know we are somewhat in a little bit of ag. So anything for just advocate, because I'm always amazed at some of the large corporations, right, that are here. We and actually I think your daughter Kimmy worked for Mac Trailer, right? You know, and I see them all over the world, right?
All
you know,
over,
and initially I probably thought, well, they're just borrowing that, right, because of Mac Truck, but it's the gentleman's initials.
Yeah, Michael Connie.
Mike A. Connie, right? You know, and so, but I see the bulk trailers all over the place, and so that's.
I think now he's up to around 10 locations.
Yeah.
Right, Oklahoma, Texas.
But an alliance company, right?
So 5 locations around the town there, and here in Salem.
Yeah. And then I know there's a couple of larger employees, but
Coastal Pet, right?
Yeah, that's
believe it or not, right? Makes dog collars.
Right, but on a big scale, right? 700 employees, and
it's over 1,000.
Yeah.
Morgan Engineering, right? They build the big overhead cranes for steel mills, right?
Yeah.
In Alliance, it's another.
So you don't think of, right? And then, of course, I know you were for years and years and years, your Friday night would be watching the Purple Raiders?
Mount Union.
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Or that's right, because Friday night's high school, so Saturday for college.
Yeah, you're right. Ohio, just like Texas, it's a big football state. And Mount Union College is, Division III college that has 11 national championships, right, in the last 25 years. So you want to go watch a good, I can't really say a good football game.
No, like 63-0 or something.
Yeah, they're playing until the last quarterfinals and finals of the playoffs. But I enjoy that. The Buckeyes, obviously. Yeah. Everybody in Ohio is a Buckeye fan. Yeah.
This area is kind of unique, right? Because you're equidistant. I don't know if that's a word or not, but from Pittsburgh as you are from Cleveland. So I saw even this morning, right? Somebody decked out in all Steelers gear.
Sure. Well, we lost a lot of Browns fans. We lost a generation of Browns fans.
When they moved to...
When Art Modell moved the team to Baltimore. Right? So I think it was around 5 years they were gone. And, of course, they came back as the Cleveland Browns. But kids that were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, they became Steeler fans.
Sure.
Right? And, hey, you know what? The Steelers have always had a competitive team.
Sure.
And so here where you're at now, it's 50-50.
Yeah.
Right? It's definitely 50-50, Browns, Steelers.
Okay.
I'm diehard Browns. I'll go to my grave with that.
Okay. Well, anything that you'd like to say
again,
that we haven't covered?
To young guys out there that get in this industry, right? It's a great industry, right? I mean, honest people. It's a, as you know, right? It's a worldwide industry.
Yeah.
You go to Europe for a show. You go to Australia for a show. It's the same companies, a lot of the same people, right? So, it's a great industry to work in, right?
Well, it's funny. I was just going to say, you mentioned that, right? And I think actually Kevin covered a little bit, right? You've got the debate on EVs and versus, combustion engine, but they still have tires, right?
Right. And they still have tires.
And so still, right, autonomous tractors, right? Things still on tires. And so it is a good industry in salt of the earth people.
That's what I just find so much. That's what I say to my kids. And one of the things I'm most proud of, right? I could probably go anywhere around the United States and a lot of places in the world, and if I had a problem, there's somebody I could call,
Yeah.
that would come and help me, right?
Because of the relationships made.
Correct.
And yeah.
Because of the relationships we've made.
It's funny. You were one of the early ones for me, right? I would call and chat with you, and just because we did a lot of business together in those early years. But I was hesitant to take the job, right? It was only my second job. I'd worked my way through high school working at a grocery store, and I'd been there 4 years, and played basketball, so I would take off kind of during the basketball season. But I was just personable, right? And I enjoyed, you get to meet the regulars and coming through. And at the time that I joined ESCO, it was a 6-person company.
Right.
And I was concerned about going to work and seeing the same 6 people every day, right? But you begin to build relationships with the people you interact with over the phone, and some numbers I still remember, right? From, even though it's been however many years. And so it's, I would agree. It's,
one thing I've been very fortunate in my life, right? I went through college, I got a job, got a great job, right? But the one thing I try to tell people is, just don't forget where you came from. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I try to take the time at least every other day, walk around the shop, talk to everybody. Without the people out there, there's no Hall Tech.
Yeah, correct.
There's no Dave, right?
Correct.
You need the people that work for you and with you, and
correct.
And I've just been blessed that there's just such a great group of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was I don't want to say easier than I thought, right? But I, like I said, I didn't think it would be difficult, but because of our familiarity.
I told my wife and daughter, she's home visiting from Chicago this morning. Yeah. I said, what I'm going to do? I said, I'm going to turn the tables on Keith, and I'm going to be the question answer and make him be the. For episode 20 or 21, whatever it is.
I do think that's actually the plan for the last episode. Is I've got a very special crew who is going to turn the tables and kind of interview me. So that's the work.
Let me ask a couple of those questions.
All right. Well, listen,
Keith, thank you so much. One of my best friends in the world. I sincerely appreciate if I didn't say that. Yep.
Yeah, so I feel the same way, and thank you for taking some time out. It's lunchtime, right, for where we're at right now, so I appreciate you.
You have it's wedding shower weekend.
Well, that's true.
So I've got this honey-do list of things that I'm going to bolt out of here as soon as we're done. So.
All right. Well, I sincerely appreciate you taking it, and I appreciate everything over the years. I mean, this is
same here.
When I sat down and kind of said, hey, I think maybe I'll kind of document, and I think it's been less about really my time as president of T. I've said it's that organization's so well run, right? That basically I'm steering the board for a year, but just trying not to screw up what all my predecessors have done such a good job, and so this has been more about some of the influences within the industry, and you've certainly been not just to the industry but to me as well.
Well,
so
thank you.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Yep,
Thanks so much,
Keith.
and we'll see you next time on another episode of As the Tire Turns. Thanks for listening to this episode of As the Tire Turns. Join us next week when we sit down with industry pioneer John Collins.